Saying, this isn't a book of fairy tales that you've heard before. These are completely original fairy tales written by different authors. And kind of the idea behind this book is to question traditional stories and kind of how they go. So the story I'm going to tell you is, you might think it's kind of silly and you would never think that somebody in real life would do these things, but it's kind of a fun story anyway. It's called The Princess Who Stood on Her Own 2 Feet. Okay, so in this story there is a princess and she lives in a kingdom by the sea. And she is as tall and as bright as a sunflower. She is so beautiful and so good at pretty much everything that she tries. She has all these royal tutors, and anytime they try to teach her something, she picks it up really fast. And she can tally the royal treasury. She knows how much money they have, and she even has picked up like a few tricks and spells and things from the royal wizard. So she can do a lot. She knows a lot. But there's one thing that she didn't have. Can anybody guess what it is she doesn't have? Kiara, what do you think?
Feet.
She does have feet. She does. Yeah.
A prince.
A prince. She doesn't have a prince. Yeah.
Pet.
She doesn't have that either. But she doesn't have a prince. She doesn't have love. And the reason why she doesn't have anybody to love her is because she's kind of, there's nobody in the kingdom that can equal her. She's kind of above everybody else. And so she decides she's going to spend her time playing her instrument. It's called a zither, which just is basically like a guitar. She designs a bunch of big, huge, elaborate tapestries, and she teaches birds how to eat out of her hand because she likes animals and she's good with animals. But still, even though she has all of these things to do, she was still kind of sad and lonely because she didn't have somebody to love her. So the wizard, the royal wizard, who was her friend, he notices this and decides that he's going to help her out. So one day, the royal wizard comes up to her, and he's got this strange creature kind of following along by him as he's walking. And the princess sees the creature and is like, what is that? She really liked interesting, unusual things, and she'd never seen a creature like this before. And the wizard was kind of funny about it. He said, I don't really know exactly what it is. It came in the mail, and all I know is that it's enchanted. And people call it a dog. It's called an Afghan hound. And the princess was really excited that the wizard was giving her this animal, this creature. And she started taking it everywhere with her. The dog would follow her as she went on her rides. It would sleep at the foot of her bed. And she would brush its long gold hair. She loved, loved, loved this dog. And sometimes she would even start to talk to the dog. And she could see in the dog's eyes, it looked like he could even understand what she was saying. And basically this dog became her best friend. How many of you have ever had a pet that you felt that way about? Yeah. So she loved this dog. It was her companion. But she still didn't have what?
Someone to love her.
She still didn't have a prince, right? So she was happier than she was, but still sometimes she would sit by her window and look out across the kingdom and think, oh, where's my knight in shining armor? Still didn't have a prince. And then one day she heard great news. There's this kingdom kind of next door that they had a prince, and the prince was interested in an alliance with her kingdom. And so, you know, the kings and the queens and the prince were going to get married. But the prince hadn't ever come to the kingdom yet. So the princess was really excited for the big betrothal feast, the night she would finally have a seat, meet her prince. And they were having a big, huge feast, a big banquet, and she was sitting at the table just so excited to see him. And finally he walks in the door, and she looks, and he is everything that she ever dreamed of. He's handsome. He looks so chivalrous and valiant and all of those things. And he comes up to her, and he looks her in the eye, and she just knows that she is in love with this prince. And he sits down next to her, and they listen as the troubadours start singing songs to honor their love. Do you guys know what a troubadour is?
Like
What is it, Gavin?
people who sing.
People who sing and play instruments and perform. Yeah. So they're listening and things are going really well, and they even secretly hold hands at the table. And she's thinking, oh, this is just so wonderful. I finally have my prince. I finally have somebody to love me. And then the troubadours start playing a waltz. And some of you may know that a waltz is a song that you do what? With? You dance to it. So the prince gets up, reaches down his hand to the princess and asks her to dance. And she stands up, and he takes a look at her, and he leaves. Takes off outside of the ballroom, and he's gone. And the princess is devastated. What happened? Why did he leave? And, you know, her dog, who's been with her this whole time, she sits down in her room by her mirror, and she looks down at her dog, and she asks, why? What happened? I wish you could speak so you could tell me. I think you probably know what happened.
Yeah.
And then the dog does speak. It turns out he could speak this whole time, but nobody ever asked him anything, and so he never did. Now the princess, you might think she would be surprised by this, that the dog just started talking to her, but she was used to things like that because of her work with the wizard. So she knew that sometimes creatures were enchanted and sometimes they talked. And that wasn't what interested her. What interested her was knowing the answer to her question. Why did the prince leave? Any guesses? Azita?
He wasn't a real prince.
Maybe he wasn't actually a prince, he was a fraud. Okay, Kiara, what do you think?
She was too tall.
Maybe she was too tall. What do you think, Keith?
He probably didn't know how to waltz.
Maybe he didn't actually know how to dance and he was embarrassed. Wyatt, what do you think?
The dog.
You think the dog, scared him away?
He said, okay, you have some sort of weird animal, I'm out of here.
That could be. Okay, well,
Goodbye.
I hate to break it to you, but this is what the dog said. Princess, you're too tall. You were right, Kiara. The prince took one look at you, saw that you were taller than him, and he was out of there. Because for some reason, princes want their wives to be shorter than them. And the princess thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. What? I can't help being tall. I'm supposed to be tall. I'm the princess. My whole family is tall. What am I going to do? I'm in love with this prince and he won't marry me because I'm too tall. What should she do?
Oh,
Wyatt?
I think I know what she's going to do.
What do you think she's going to do? You think she's going to chop off her feet?
See, I was right.
Ooh, that doesn't sound like a very good idea. Maybe. I don't know. Well, I don't
Maybe
know.
she'll talk to like a wizard or something and they might make her shorter.
Have you read this story before? That's exactly what she did. She called the wizard up to her room and said, Wizard, I need you to make me shorter. The prince won't marry me if I'm taller than him, so a good foot should do it. Can you make me a foot shorter? And the wizard, he was really sorry, but it turns out, he says, you know what, princess? I could make you fatter. I could make you skinnier. I could even turn you into a raven. But
What's a raven?
a raven is a bird.
Oh, yeah.
I could even turn you into a raven, but I can't make you shorter. I can't even make you 1 inch shorter than you are. That's just beyond what I can do. How do you think the princess felt?
Sad. Really.
Really sad. She was inconsolable. Do you guys know what that word means? Heath, what does it mean? Inconsolable. Anybody?
Bawling.
Yeah? Azita?
Maybe she gave up.
Yeah, it's kind of like she gave up. Inconsolable means that it doesn't matter what anybody says to you, they can't make you feel better. She was inconsolable. So she took to her bed and was just kind of, oh, woe is me. I'm so sad.
Oh, whoa.
Alack, alas, and woe is me. Her parents noticed this and they thought, we need to do something. So they went back and started talking with the king and queen of the other kingdom and said, look, our princess really, really wants to marry your prince. What if we give you more land? What if we give you money? Can we sweeten the deal so that your prince will reconsider it? And so he does. He does reconsider. He comes back to find the princess just kind of sit in bed. And he sees her, and she's just, laying down. Oh, woe is me, right? And he comes in and he thinks, oh, she's not so bad when she's laying down or sitting down. Maybe this could work. And he comes up to her and says, hey, do you want to go for a ride? Let's go ride our horses. And she thinks, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. So he strides off out the room, and she stands up and kind of slouches off to the stables because she doesn't want to be too tall, right? So she's trying to pretend like she's not as tall as she is. And they get on the horses, and everything is great because when you're on a horse, you can't really tell who's taller than who. And it doesn't look like she's taller than the prince. So they're riding along, and everything is going just fine. Until the prince sees a hedge off in the distance. And he thinks to himself, I'm going to jump over that hedge and impress the princess. So he starts galloping his horse, jumps over the hedge, makes it no problem, looks back to see the prince, hoping to see the princess just, oh, you're so wonderful. And what do you think he sees? Charlie? Exactly. She's doing the exact same thing that he just did. And he kind of gets this, cold voice and says, hasn't anybody ever told you that ladies are supposed to ride sights out?